Wonder no more. Tenable helps you find those gaps before attackers do, leaving no stone unturned and no risk unknown. Visit Tenable.com/cloud.
A new report from Feeding America using 2023 data found that before President Trump took office, people in every U.S. county faced hunger. And in some areas, childhood food insecurity was as high as 50%. Today, the fight against food insecurity is getting more challenging. Millions of meals aren't making it to tables across the U.S. That's due to cuts made in March by the Trump administration at the Department of Agriculture, specifically to programs funding farms, schools, and food banks. Now, food banks all over the country are struggling to keep up with the rise in demand.
2 shipments of eggs, each 750 cases, canceled. Cheese, 825 cases, canceled. Chicken, 800 cases, canceled.
It comes at a time of increasing need at food pantries in our network. We've seen over 30% increase in visits over the past year.
Sometimes they're asking me, hey, is there any more chicken? Is there any more this? Is there any more meats? Any more eggs coming anytime soon? Do you know when? And unfortunately, I can't provide them. I can't give them a date when they're going to come back.
The pinch felt at food banks comes as House Republicans push through their sweeping reconciliation bill with deep cuts to SNAP benefits. As concerns over ongoing inflation and food insecurity spikes in some counties, how are food banks and farms responding to a loss in federal funding? And how will these cuts affect communities across the country? I'm Jen White. You're listening to the 1A podcast. We'll be back with our guests in just a moment.
This message comes from Sattva. Spring cleaning can be good for your home and your mind. It can boost your mood, sharpen your focus, and fuel productivity. Another way to do all that? Sleeping well. Voted best luxury mattress by sleepfoundation.org, every Sattva is handcrafted for a great night's sleep, and they cost far less than retail. This Memorial Day, save $600 on $1,000 or more at sattva.com/NPR. This message comes from Charles Schwab. When it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices, like full-service wealth management and advice when you need it. You can also invest on your own and trade on Thinkorswim. Visit schwab.com to learn more.
This message comes from Greenhouse. With Greenhouse hiring software, recruiters benefit from built-in AI that automates tasks from outreach to offer and generates instant insights that help them make smarter hiring decisions. Visit greenhouse.com to learn more.
Let's get to it. Marcia Brown joins us in studio. She's a food and agriculture reporter at Politico, covering federal agencies and the business of food. Marcia, it's great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
And joining us from Texas is Brian Green. He's the president and CEO of the Houston Food Bank. That's the largest food bank in the U.S., feeding about 1 million people annually across 18 counties in southeast Texas. It's also part of the Feeding America network. Brian, welcome to the program.
Jen, thank you so much for having us on.
So in March, Marcia, the USDA cut over $1 billion in federal funding to food banks. The cuts also axed a program that provided schools with fresh foods from local farms. What programs specifically were cut?
Right. So there are 2 programs called Local Food for Schools and Local Food Purchase Cooperative Agreement Program, which is the program that provided funding to food banks. And in total, that was about a little over $1 billion. And what those programs did is they gave money to schools and food banks to buy from local farmers. So it was a way for new contracts for small and mid-sized farms to get these new contracts and provide blueberries or wheat or, all kinds of fresh food, chicken, eggs to, places in their region rather than kind of like big international food conglomerates.
Well, we heard from Nicholas in Ohio, who says food banks are very important. The fact that they are getting cut is a travesty. We can and need to do better as a country to treat those who are struggling. Well, we did reach out to the USDA about these cuts, and a spokesperson sent this statement saying, quote, from the start of the fiscal year through February 2025, the department has spent nearly $780 million on TFAP, or the Emergency Food Assistance Program, foods and administrative expenses, which is not unusual in a 5-month period. Not to mention, as of Wednesday, states have nearly $250 million in local purchasing authority that is specific to the charitable feeding network. Finally, on any given day, the department has used more than $405 million worth $405 million worth of nutrition benefits across its 16 nutrition programs. There's no need to continue pandemic aid or create new programs, but perhaps more efficient use of current programs and funding. And you'll find that statement at the1a.org. Marcia, just decode that for us. Were these pandemic programs that were cut?
Yeah, that's a great question. So these programs did come out of the pandemic in the sense that the pandemic revealed all these, tangled supply chains. There were shortages. Farmers were dumping their milk. And the Biden administration realized, how can we strengthen these supply chains and diversify supply chains and suppliers? And so they developed these programs. And in some ways, they came out of the Trump administration's Food Boxes to Families program. They were kind of fine-tuning that. And so these programs were really about food chain resiliency. And they were also, about the weaknesses revealed by the pandemic. And so they stood up these programs. They were extremely popular. Almost every state had contracts, and schools loved them because they helped them meet these Buy American requirements for school meals and helped them provide healthier, fresher food.
Did the administration provide any other reasons for these cuts?
So the money for the local foods programs comes from a New Deal era account called the Commodity Credit Corporation. And what that does is it gives the Agriculture Secretary broad authority to provide funding for different priority areas. And we do see with different administrations, they prioritize different things. This is the same fund that the Trump administration used to provide almost $20 billion in bailout money to farmers. And I should say that some of those billions did go to food banks. They used that money to buy commodities like pork, and those went to food banks during the pandemic and during a time when food banks were experiencing increasing need. I should also add that, there was another $500,000 canceled to the Emergency Food Assistance Program that was also from the CCC fund. And that money was planned to help food banks address both the rising cost of food, because they're buying food, right? It's more expensive to buy food, and rising need, because consumer grocery bills are just not going as far. And so these additional funds that the Trump administration is pointing to now do help. But from what I'm hearing from food bank leaders, it's just not quite the same. And there's still this increased need. And with the reconciliation bill, we'll see increased pressure on food banks.
Well, Brian, this is a great time to turn to you. I'd love to hear how these cuts are affecting your food bank.
Yeah. Well, Houston is just one of 250 Feeding America food banks around the country. We're all pretty much seeing the same thing. In our case, the cuts work out to about 40 tractor-trailer loads per month of USDA commodities that we won't be receiving.